Breaking this morning, new details show that a Dallas hospital may have dropped the ball before making the first Ebola diagnosis on U.S. soil. According to CNN, a friend of the patient said he called the CDC in Atlanta, not the hospital. That patient has been identified as 42-year-old Thomas Eric Duncan. Duncan showed up in the ER after returning from a trip to Liberia with Ebola-like symptoms. He was sent home with an antibiotic. Up to 20 people now being monitored after coming into contact with Duncan, including 5 school-aged children. And joining us now is Dr. Daria Gillespie from the Emory Department of Emergency Medicine and the Executive VP at ShareCare. Dr. Gillespie, great to have you here. You're on the front lines in the emergency room.
Thank you.
And here's the question that I think all of us are thinking about this morning. How could they miss this? Isn't it blatantly obvious if someone's coming from Liberia and they've got these symptoms that right away the red flag should be going up?
You know, I really can't speak to what happened at that emergency department there. I know that here at Emory, they have a very clear questionnaire including, have you been outside the United States? And you literally can't go to the next page on the computer screen without answering that. So it stops you in your tracks. So if somebody has that travel history that's suspicious and has any symptoms that could be representative of Ebola, we stop right there and get them to an isolation room before we do anything else.
Let's talk about the other concern everyone has. This man came in contact with, they say, 20 people, 5 school children. When I hear children children spread germs quicker than any of us. This is a problem.
Well, you know, I want people to know the facts. I don't want people to panic. You know, it's important to remember what the symptoms are of Ebola so you can notice them if you have them. But unless those children were in close physical contact with him, like we know that this gentleman contracted Ebola by literally carrying a pregnant woman with Ebola. It needs that kind of physical contact to be able to spread Ebola.
All right, so let's talk about then the screening process that's in place now. That it's the first safeguard that we all have. This man got through the screening process at the airport, went to the hospital once, was sent home with antibiotics. If he was in Liberia, he had that sort of contact. Shouldn't that be enough at a certain point to say, hey, we've really got to keep an eye on this person because it takes a while for the disease to come out?
Well, that's a really tough question because if you think of people who are living in the West African countries where this is epidemic, many of them probably could have contact with somebody who has Ebola. So that's going to be an issue for policymakers to decide how we want to keep our country as safe as possible. For people who are worried about it themselves, remember, you have to have 2 things: close physical contact, such as having been in a country where it's epidemic, and the symptoms of Ebola, to be able to be worried about it in their own lives.
I just want one number from you, 0 to 10. How worried should we be? 10 being the most worried, 0 being not worried at all.
You know, I want people to know the facts. I don't want them to panic. It's very important that we don't take this and take it to a level of panic. If people are concerned, if they think that they have both the symptoms and the close physical contact, I want them to call the CDC info line. It's 1-800-CDC-INFO. They'll be able to get them the screening information that they need and next steps.
All right, Dr. Gillespie, always great information. Thanks so much. I know you've got to get back to work. Thank you.